So we're talking about the subconscious mind. So are you conscious? As a matter of fact, probably not. We are unconscious 85 to 90% of the time. Think about things that you do unconsciously, that you don't have to think about doing. Driving a car, how complicated is that? And yet you can get behind the wheel and just go wherever you're going and not even think about the process of driving. The whole morning routine that you do, and even at work, how much of the time are we on autopilot? How about communications? How many times have you said, oops, I didn't mean to say that? And that's because you weren't really answering the question at hand. You were just unconsciously saying what it was that you already knew how to say. So how do you suppose you got to that place where you can do things unconsciously? And the answer is actually practice and repetition. Now, who loves practice and repetition? I know I don't love practice and repetition, and so one of the things that's really hard is to change behaviors, because we've got these behaviors that have been ingrained through practice and repetition, and we're really stuck in them. And because the unconscious mind naturally seeks the path of least resistance, the easiest thing to do is to keep up the old habit. So I have this really cool analogy, and I learned this analogy from a man named Dr. Tom Miller in his program called Self-Discipline and Emotional Control. And he calls the unconscious mind the horse and the conscious mind the rider. So have you been on a trail ride? Or if not, you know what I'm talking about, right? You get on a horse and it follows the horse in front of it, ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. You ever try to get your horse to do anything interesting? You know, speed up, pass the horse in front of it? What happens? Well, it follows the horse in front of it, ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. The horse does exactly what it was trained to do. Now, if you want the horse to go down a new path, can you get it to go? Sure, but you have to force it to go down the other path, because the minute you try and relax, what's the horse going to do? But go right back, ba-dum, 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 follow the horse in front of it. Aren't our horses like that? How many times have you said, I want to start getting up earlier in the mornings? I want to get organized and stay that way. I'm never going to do that again. Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. So if you think about this unconscious part of our minds as being the horse, then that gives you a lot of power, because now you can kind of distinguish the horse from the rider. And the rider, which is the conscious part of our minds, really only does a few things. The conscious part of our minds typically does three things: critical thinking, learning, planning. That's about it. Everything else gets taken care of by the horse, and mostly that's a great thing. Isn't it great? You can just get up in the morning and not even have to think about what you're doing, and the next thing you know, you're ready. So the great thing is that we've trained it to do a lot of the mundane day-to-day things for us. It only really becomes a problem when we want to change. And when we want to change, it becomes really difficult, not just because it's easier to do the old habitual thing, but because one of the functions of your horse is it's your survival mechanism. The horse is a primitive part of your brain, though. It doesn't know whether something is good for you or bad for you. It has no ability to do any critical thinking. All it knows is, hey, you're alive right now, which means nothing you've done so far has killed you. So let's just keep you doing the same thing and we'll keep you safe. So I'd like you to remember this equation. Safe equals same. Dangerous equals different. In the horse, safe equals same, dangerous equals different. So now all of a sudden you want to do something new or different, you're going to feel wrong and you're going to feel uncomfortable, because the horse governs how you feel. And what if you recognize, now that we've had this conversation, that if you're feeling resistance, if you're feeling afraid of something, if something seems like it's a bad idea, you hear somebody say something and you want to reject it, what if you recognize that all that rejection, all that resistance means is that whatever that idea is different? What if you just really looked at, from now on, every time you get resistance, all the resistance means is whatever that thing is different. And then you're like, hey, thanks a lot, horse, for letting me know that that's different. And now that I realize it's different, which means I need to be cautious, then independent of the horse, I can go up in my rider and do some empirical, critical thinking and decide whether this is a good fit for me or not.